you. Senator Walsh.
Thank you. Thanks, folks. I want to go to the document that was distributed a little while ago, the summary of requirements about the water monitoring and management programs.
Yep.
I notice here in both the Santos and the QGC columns that you note that in the expert panel review of stage 1 of those plans, the minister decided not to approve those plans. So first of all, with Santos, they then proceeded on to stage 2 without stage 1 having been ticked off. It looks from your table here that Santos still don't have their water management and monitoring plan ticked off. What happens now? Are they operating? Why was approval issued if the water problems still, almost 2 years on, haven't been able to be properly dealt with?
Senator, I might have to take that question on notice. I have lost Mr Gaddies. I've sent him to do something else because I thought...
Can he be brought back?
He can be brought back. He's in the building, but he's not here right now. There was a degree of complexity.
I was just going to make one suggestion, Senator. These matters would typically be covered under 5.2. We're trying to take as much here as we possibly can, but Mr Gaddies will be available for item 5.2 this afternoon.
Okay, I've got a number of other questions for that session
pick up questionings there if we can't get him back a little sooner.
Yeah, I was just going to go on and say, as we indicated in the evidence provided previously, there have been a lot of meetings of the Queensland expert panel and a lot of detailed technical analysis of the plans and work that's been undertaken by the proponents in preparing their water management plans. The precise detail about what was approved on what date, you've got the piece of paper in front of me, I no longer do, so I'm sorry for that. But we did find, as you would expect in areas where there is an adaptive management approach, that there were things that were prescribed to be in the stage 1 water management plans that it was unreasonable to expect could have been completed in the timeframes of the stage 1 plans, and so they've been incorporated into the stage 2 water management plans.
Which still hasn't been ticked off for Santos, and yet their approval was issued years ago and presumably they're operating.
Well, they're not able to operate in a manner covered by things in the water management plan until their water management plan has been approved by the minister.
So are they extracting gas from the wells?
I don't have that information to hand, Senator. My understanding would be that if they are having an impact on water that's covered by the water management plan and that water management plan is not yet approved by the minister, then they wouldn't be operating.
There's no doubt, Senator, that those projects are obviously not operating at anything like their full scale at all, because the processing facilities haven't yet been completed. The processing facilities have to be completed before there's going to be commercial levels of extraction.
That's true, but even the pilot and exploration levels of extraction
we
can have water
we
impacts,
can have
as you well
officers
know.
who can provide you with further information on that.
Great.
But those more significant issues are really related to when you ramp up to very large scales of production.
Well, with respect, the scientists say otherwise. They say that there can be groundwater impacts even from exploration stage, but I'll leave that given the limited time. Can I take you to the matters that are required to be dealt with in stage 1 of a water monitoring and management plan? And your first, the 4th bullet point in the first item, groundwater monitoring, which says that early warning indicators of where drawdown thresholds are being approached need to be addressed. Can you outline for me what sort of early warning indicator and how that matches up with the evidence from CSIRO and the Water Commission that say that in fact sometimes these impacts aren't detected for decades, possibly hundreds of years? How can you have an early warning indicator when water moves slowly?
So, Senator, as you're aware, we're only able to regulate water as it relates to matters of national environmental significance. With the projects in Queensland, those matters are mound spring dependent communities, and so they are some distance away from the actual operating of the coal seam gas facilities. Without doubt, the operation of coal seam gas extraction does have an impact on water levels in the immediate vicinity. What we've done is worked with the companies and with the Expert Advisory Committee to develop extremely conservative thresholds of what would be a natural variation in levels of aquifers on the pathway between where the coal seam gas extraction activity is taking place and the mound springs, so that there is an early warning.
And how is that enabled to be fixed if you detect that the threshold is reaching that danger zone level? what measures are then put in place in order to remedy that?
Well, you're going slightly beyond my area of technical expertise, Senator, but my understanding of things is that there are a number of options, including either slowing down or halting the extraction of coal seam gas, as well as the provisions around re-injection into aquifers that have been impacted by coal seam gas extraction.
Again, I think there's some significant scientific concern about whether or not that is a successful process. Look, perhaps I'll revisit this in 5.2, but my general concern is approvals have been given when we have fundamental detail about water impacts and we don't even know whether they can be managed. Why were the approvals given in the first place? Does the department advise the minister as to the propriety of issuing such highly conditional approvals? Did the department advise the minister that perhaps it would be more sensible to be in possession of the information about water impacts and how and if they can be managed before giving these major projects the approval?
Well, it's regular practice under the EPBC Act for companies to apply for their approvals at quite an early stage of the consideration of the potential economic activity. This aligns with their investment timeframes and essentially the need not to make investment decisions that would subsequently be overruled by environmental concerns or conditions. As you're aware, we do give approvals for projects with a number of detailed and subordinate plans and activities that need to be undertaken before the activity is able to progress, and that's the same case in these coal seam gas activities in Queensland.
Okay, so if the water management and monitoring plan can never meet the satisfaction of the minister, what happens to the status of the overarching approval?
Well, it is a condition of the project that the water management plan be prepared to the satisfaction of the minister.
And so the approval is void if those subsidiary plans can't be satisfactorily ticked off by the minister?
That would be the most likely option.
Okay. Look, I want to take you also to your bullet points there about information relating to hydraulic fracturing, and you've listed 2 items there which need to be examined in a stage 1 water plan in relation to fracking issues. What's not listed there is the environmental impacts of the mobilising of naturally occurring BTECs by the very fracking process itself. We had some evidence given to this committee in the course of my bill, I think it might have been the government's water bill, one of the water bills, which was to the effect that fracking can mobilise naturally occurring BTECs. That's not included on your list here of issues that the companies have to address in their plans. Is there an intention to revise this list and add that on?
Senator, we do regularly revise these kinds of lists as new information comes to light. I'm happy to take on notice what we've done with that particular evidence from the inquiry. I'm not personally familiar with exactly what we've done with that.
Thank you. I'd be very keen to know that that's being attended to and reflected in the standards. Coming back to the ISK bioregional planning, can you give me an update on where that's at, how it's progressing, and are we filling those gaps in our water knowledge?
I'll pass you to Ms Nethercott-Watson for an update on the bioregional planning process, Senator.
Hello.
Sorry, Senator, I wasn't sure if you're after one particular one, but I can give you a feel of where the program's up to.
The overarching one first would be great.
Yep, sure. So, as you know, there's 6 bioregions that have been identified, of which a number of those have been broken into the relevant sub-region area based on the appropriate geology and hydrogeology of the region. So there's around 15 sub-regions that we're looking at. And at the moment, there's 4 priority sub-regions that have been identified that will be the first areas subject to bioregional assessments. And those 4 areas include Galilee, Namoy, Gloucester and Clarence. So far, in terms of what the program's been doing, is the main focus has been on the construct of a scientific methodology to undertake bioregional assessments, and this has been done in conjunction with our partner agency, CSIRO, Geoscience Australia and Bureau of Meteorology. There's been very, very detailed planning gone into that methodology and has been the subject of a lot of conversations with the Independent Expert Scientific Committee. We've commenced some detailed stakeholder consultations in a lot of these regions, so particularly the 4 sub-priority regions, talking to councils, natural resource management organisations, mining companies to talk about the commencement of bioregional assessments and what the scientific methodology is looking to do, and that would include bringing together a wide range of products, technical scientific products that would be released as part of bioregional assessments through a number of phases. So the first phase would be a contextual analysis phase, the next phase would be a data modelling phase, the third phase an impact analysis phase, and the fourth a risk analysis phase. So there's particular scientific products being identified for each of those phases under the scientific methodology, and we're starting to talk to people about what those approaches might be, and also to utilise the work that we've undertaken with the 29 natural resource management organisations that we've contracted to actually give us, and it's important to concentrate on the fact that that's local knowledge, that's identifying local water assets and receptors, and that forms the basis of the scientific methodology to take in and understand what might be the potential impacts and risks to those water assets and receptors. So there's been a lot of discussion commenced, and the data analysis has been starting to be brought together, and there's a fair bit of work going on within the scientific agencies at the moment to better understand the availability of data that might be around to draw in and then work through each of those phases on top of the water asset and receptor information that's coming from natural resource management organisations.
Will there be any fresh
To
data
move
gathered?
on, Senator Joyce, what I'm going to do